everyone. Thank you for joining tonight's live stream, Apparel with Purpose. Really excited to be here with you this evening and share a little bit about the work that we are doing at Willow Apparel. Have a lot of exciting topics to cover today, as well as a couple of guests that I'm really excited to introduce you to. Really, just want to kind of kick it off by starting with our first topic, which is really a little bit of information about how I came up with the idea and the concept for Willow Apparel, and it has a lot to do with the light within, and how we can capture stories of people that are experiencing homelessness to really help address a lot of the misconceptions that are out there and that exist. Really for me, when I started to think of what I could do to positively impact the people experiencing homelessness, I wanted to create a company that was a visible sign of hope and advocacy, inspired by a lot of people in the community that are out there, like Mark Horvath, and the founder of Invisible People, who does an incredible job capturing stories of people experiencing homelessness and also bringing real solutions to light that government and corporations can get behind. And through the work that I've done with the people in my community, I've always been really inspired by just the positivity that all of these people have and exude, despite really not having a tremendous amount of circumstances and things to be positive about often. And so that kind of brings me back to the light within. It's a deep-rooted belief of mine that everyone in this world was born with the light within, that they were meant to shine on the world, and that oftentimes, because of the structure of our society, that light is often tarnished or it's burnt out. And so the goal in creating Willow Apparel was to really reignite that flame within people that are experiencing homelessness, but then also to shine light on what the passion and bring compassion and empathy to people that are often otherized. The more that you go and are interacting with people that have experienced poverty, that have experienced homelessness, I think you'll really get a better understanding of the reality of the situation. Most people, like myself, prior to doing service work when I was in school at Loyola Chicago, I didn't know anyone personally that had been homeless. I let myself believe some of the fear mongering and some of the tactics that are out there that kind of demonize these people. And the more time that I actually spent just taking it and approaching these individuals and really trying to learn more about them, the more I realized that a lot of the fear tactics were just that. And so that's how I came up with the concept of Willow Apparel. There's I think a huge appetite for people that want to help, and they just don't really know how. And so through representing a brand like Cherry Willow, being out in the community, taking that positive action, that's really what we're looking to inspire. And that really brings me into our second topic today, which is apparel with purpose. Apparel is a large part of a person's identity. It's how you choose to represent yourself when you're interacting with the world around you. And so for me, it's really powerful to create a brand that not only is eco-conscious and sustained and not fast fashion, so we can prevent some of the waste that's common in that industry, but really to be a symbol of advocacy, a symbol of hope, and that's the ultimate goal of Cherry Willow, and really just create connection. When you see someone else that's out in the community and they're wearing Cherry Willow apparel, you know that they care about people that are experiencing homelessness. And often, the people that are homeless in our communities, they're not always the people that are on the side of the street. They're also the people that are, working at a Walmart or a Target. They're maybe in the coffee shop. And when they see you representing a brand that was created to serve them, it may give them the courage to open up to you about their situation. And maybe there is a way that you could help. And so that's a lot of the reasoning why, we went with apparel. And that brings me to really want to introduce our first guest this evening, which is Chris Sherrick. Had the privilege of working with Chris over the past couple of months, and really excited to bring him on this evening. Hey, Chris, how are you doing,
Thank
bud?
you. Yeah, good. Thank you. It's great to be here, Matt. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I'd love for you to just kind of speak to your background and how you got connected with Cherry Willow, just to give the people an understanding of the work that you're doing and how you support our efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love when you use the word otherizing. I think it's an incredible phrase to snap you back into your chair and make you think about how it is that you are interacting with the world around you and how you're positioning yourself against that. But before I get too deep into that, Matt and I were joking about how we could probably jump around for hours. Uh, Matt and I were introduced, I should say, I was introduced to Cherry Willow as part of my role at Athlon London, which is a digital brand and product studio. I've been primarily involved in looking at startups in the US who are purpose driven, where we can invest with trust, not just in transaction, and look for brands who are doing the same thing. That is their objective, to ultimately create impact beyond themselves, beyond profit, and to create profit through purpose, which is a very scalable, impactful business model that really inspires me. I don't think it's everywhere, but I think when you find it, it is worth pursuing and it's extremely powerful. And for me, I think leadership is about solving problems with purpose. Matt, that's what stands out to me about you and what you're doing. Your passion, your vision is going to lead Cherry Willow into the future, of where it ends up. And the brand embodies this through that human centered mission. And I'm really impressed by you and what your team is doing. And I'm thrilled to be involved.
Yeah, it's been a real passion of mine, and it has a lot to do with the philosophy that I try to embody. It's I spoke about it a little bit on the last live show, but it's called Ikigai. It's Ikigai, and it's the intersection of what you're good at, what you love to do, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. And in a capitalist society, that last bit is crucial, to really be able to align some really positive work, but also to positively impact people around us. And that's one of the things that I just wanted to bring to other people and help inspire them to act in a similar way. I'm sure that you have a lot of people out there that have a lot of skills, and maybe they've just been leveraging them for for a business to provide for themselves and their family, but they maybe don't feel a ton of purpose in that work. And I feel like there's a large opportunity for people to leverage their skills and find purpose, and really to help create that entrepreneurial spirit, which I feel like is the true sense of the American dream, and to help create a level of autonomy where they're not only leveraging their skills to provide profit for some other entity, but also creating a situation where they can provide profit and for their family and for their community. And so that's really what I try to stand for, is just investing in the people, investing in the community, and really empowering people. And I think that is, at the end of the day, what our society needs to do more, isn't seek to empower people, rather than to exploit them.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
that's
what I love about what you're doing at Cherry Willow is the fact that you're not just an apparel brand. Cherry Willow is really a movement, right? And Cherry Willow, in terms of some of the conversations that we've had, it is a brand representing a future where homelessness is eradicated through education. And I think that is such a powerful mission. You're going to market using fashion to tell stories, to amplify unheard voices, and to humanize homelessness in a way that, as you called out before, can draw connection for those who are wearing similar brands, similar to how clothing brands are treated today. There's always an association with the brands that you choose or decide to wear. And I mean, to the extent that investing in people, investing in community, and how your business model is working, which I think it would help our audience to understand how does Cherry Will, how does the apparel purchase process, how does that lead into this mission, and how can they contribute or how can they get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And just one of the great ways is just by supporting us, attending these live streams. And that's actually something before I forget to mention it. We are, giving away one apparel item. So anyone, you can go on the site. You signed up. It's going to be raffled off. Any item that you see, you can become, that really advocate in your community. And by purchasing the apparel, it's a multifaceted approach. So any revenue that's generated from the apparel helps us to continue the work that we strive to do to go out there and capture and tell more of the stories of the people impacted by homelessness in our community. And then also the direct support is going to allow us to work towards creating more programs and ultimately creating housing. That's what we're striving for. I don't see an end to homelessness without the creation of more affordable housing. But you can't only create housing. It's also really important to build community around that housing and to provide support for the people that are in the housing. And so that's ultimately the long-term vision of Cherry Willow, is to really address a lot of the misconceptions. Speak to the people that are the not in my backyard crowd, and really just help them understand that their framing of the situation and the people impacted, is an inaccurate one. And so the lens that we try to provide is that really that humanizing lens. And it goes back to, empowering the people. And, that's part of the strategy is, as we grow as an organization, we look to help provide services, whether it's to provide rent support, to help prevent homelessness and enable so many of the wonderful organizations that seek to serve the people experiencing homelessness by stopping the flow of homelessness and disrupting the paths to homelessness. And then we're looking to partner with businesses that want to provide job training programs. And then when it comes to universities, there's so many different things that we can provide for the people to empower themselves. And it all starts with really having a place to call home. Because when you look at a lot of people, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that homelessness really only impacts people with mental health or with addiction issues. And while those are a percentage of the population of people that are experiencing homelessness, those are also issues that are prevalent throughout all walks of society. Whether you're extremely affluent and you have a really high-paying job, mental health and depression that is far-reaching, and addiction. These things are not isolated issues, and demonizing the people that are experiencing homelessness is not going to help anyone. So really, shining light on the affordable housing crisis, and I say crisis because homelessness has increased this year. I believe 770,000 people, according to last point in time data, and that's at an all-time high. And many of these people are children. I believe there was 150,000 children in that population, and so these are, especially when you think of kids, like there's obviously nothing that those kids did to, even if you believe people deserve to live in those circumstances, which I personally don't. It's a systemic issue and it's a societal issue, and we really need to advocate for the creation of more affordable housing. And then once people have that stability, then they can really begin to, empower themselves and stay there and continue to build and prosper in their community.
Definitely. I think in many ways, how Cherry Willow is leaning into telling stories is so important for empathy and connection. I think your brand will thrive long term by continuing to share these authentic, vulnerable stories. Matt, you and I have had conversations in the past just around our own mental health journeys and how it's important for us to be advocates of that to others, so that you can normalize it, right? And we can start to have conversations around what are the best ways to give people options or solutions, or even just the first step into a direction that could be a positive change in their life. And to the extent that we can do that in split seconds in time, even going live on LinkedIn. I mean, kudos to you, Matt. This is not the most comfortable format. And for you to stand up here, to feel uncomfortable, to be in front of audiences of hundreds, thousands of people you don't know, and to tell these stories of other people as well as what you've experienced is extremely vulnerable. And I believe you brought up the last time we chatted the parable of Alan Watts, the Chinese farmer, and
Yeah.
knowing that every story, every action has ripple effects that we can't always predict, right? Continuing to put that out there, you never know what story, who that will touch, right? Those stories, that connection, and what ripple effect it will create in terms of people then, telling those stories to others and purchasing the apparel of the brand and continuing to perpetuate the connection to what is ultimately underwritten by a very authentic, um, empathetic mission you have to end homelessness. It's extremely impressive. Kudos to you. And going on to I'll do one quick note on that, and you can let me know how far you want to go down this right now. But thinking about you scaling as a business, which is always interesting to me, because profit by purpose, you can create more purpose driven impact if you can scale as a business, right? So there is a balance of this, which is how do you be a successful business and how do you continue to grow so that you can create more impact and make that impact transparent to those who are loyalists of your brand over time, and to do so in a way that is not strategic by the kind of cold business term, but strategic in terms of the human empowerment that you talked about earlier, and looking at scaling without losing that authenticity. That is a challenge for purpose-driven brands. You will inevitably run into challenges in terms of taking that culture and being able to disseminate it to the masses. And I believe that focus on community that you talked about earlier, that is really going to help maintain the integrity of the Cherry Willow brand and to continue to push your mission as far as it can go, as long as you are bringing people along for the ride of purpose-driven growth, which I think you are doing a fantastic job in terms of setting up the foundation for that. And it will just be about, to some extent, patience and riding the wave and adapting as you go, as you continue to learn more. But I'm really excited to see where that journey takes you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I think to your point, a lot of the issues that I see in society are caused by profit over people. And so really what I want to do with Cherry Willow is create a company and a community that's people over profit. And I really believe when you have, great people that are working together, you can accomplish, anything. And that kind of leads me to bringing in our next guest, who is Dana. She's our director of compliance, and especially when you were talking about building a foundation, Chris, it's really important when you have both the for-profit and a nonprofit component, that you have someone that's really skilled and familiar with these multifaceted approaches. So I'm excited to introduce Dana to everyone.
Everybody. Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be here to speak with everyone. Yeah, I'm Dana Hutcheson. I'm the director of compliance for Cherry Willow. So my role here is basically to dot all the I's and cross all the T's and make sure that we're operating within the rules and regulations for a nonprofit. And what I'm currently doing is the background work to getting us 501c3 recognition with the IRS and all this stuff that kind of comes with that. So I'm really excited to get us up and running.
Yeah, I really appreciate you hopping on. It's just exciting to be able to work with people that are inspired and they're taking positive action. And that's one of the things that really impressed me about Dana was just how many different nonprofits she's helped to support. And so it's really, really exciting that she wanted to support us and is helping us make sure that we're doing everything in a compliant way. To her point, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's. Because I know myself, I can be when I get into storytelling mode, I'm not always the most careful in terms of, following everything as I should be. I kind of can get lost in my own rabbit hole, if you will. So it's really good to have someone like Dana to kind of keep us on course, make sure we're laying a strong, solid foundation. Because with the best intentions, we still make sure that we're doing everything by the letter of the law, which is the most important to ensuring we're setting ourselves up for really long-term success as an organization.
And it sounds like you're doing everything right, Matt, in terms of driving your mission forward as a CEO, right? I think you nailed it with that last statement. You're driving things forward with your best intention, and you're hiring the right people or partnering with the right people to come around you and to help make that mission possible. Interestingly, Dana, we were just joking backstage, the virtual backstage before the show, that you and I are due some time together in the near future. And what better than on this show to get to know you a little bit better? And I think it'd be great for the audience to hear a bit more about purpose-driven brands, especially those who may not be as familiar with some of these spaces. I'd love to hear from your perspective as someone who's been involved in so many different nonprofit organizations. What do you think it means to be truly a purpose-driven brand in today's world?
Yeah. So I've been kind of working with nonprofits ever since I was in college. I started one on my own and started to kind of get really familiar with the rules and regulations the hard way. And since then, I've kind of, taken it upon myself when I see people starting nonprofits that I feel connected to kind of jump in and be like, let me share some of this expertise, because not a lot of people find it interesting. A lot of people struggle with it. And I am one of those nerds that, I kind of fell in love with regulatory affairs. And, once I read all these rules and learn how to operate within them, I just kind of want to share that knowledge. So I've helped a lot of nonprofits get up and going. But I think Cherry Willow is really special. I think, having been working here with this team, each one of them is like super dedicated to the mission, not just to try to end homelessness, but also make a difference in how we view homelessness. So in Cherry Willow's case, I think it's, very much seen as, amongst everyone on the crew, that's something that really does and could impact all of us. A lot of people experience it and all the stigma that goes along with it. I mean, I myself have been homeless, and it's something that so many people face. So what I really like about Cherry Willow in particular is that I think that they're really set up to make a really huge impact, just the way we view and think about the whole issue. And for me, I think that's kind of what makes Cherry Willow stand out to me as like a purpose-driven company. They're coming at it from a multifaceted approach. They know what the goal is, and they're willing to go, in a many different directions in order to try to achieve that goal.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I believe their unique take on starting with apparel is a great way to be able to almost live and breathe the market facing aspect of that brand, right? That brand mission is to quite literally wear it on your chest. And the opportunities for Cherry Willow to go in a number of different directions that will support their core mission, but operate in secondary markets effectively, is critical to their long-term success, and your involvement to be able to ensure they can scale without any setbacks is incredibly important. And without folks like you who get very interested and excited about different regulations and rules in these very unique areas, it would be much harder for companies to thrive. Like companies like Cherry Willow to exist, thrive, to grow. So your role is incredibly important.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Honestly, every day working here, it sounds super trite, but you just kind of really feel that we are every little bit of progress is really noticeable. In a startup, that's not always the case. Here, it's we really want to get to the point where we're on the ground running and working towards making a difference.
Yeah, and it's been great, having Dana, and just such a great communicator. And that's, always a challenge when you're talking about managing different personalities and, and leading an organization. It's very important to me to understand how I can best communicate to, and to set people up for success. And so Dana has been incredible in just articulating, what from an organizational standpoint we can provide, where we need to be at, establishing timelines, and helping to keep everything on cadence so that, ultimately we can just position ourselves to really accelerate the impact that we're going to make for, the people experiencing homelessness. And, to my point earlier, this is an issue that's not seemingly going to go away, and it's only getting more and more prevalent. And so I feel our work is, more important than ever, really just to set people up for success, and just bring more awareness to what's going on across the country. That's something that, when I've been working with people and interviewing potential team members, I've talked to people in all different markets. So it's not just the major urban areas where, homelessness is prevalent and it's visible. It's also in, a lot of these small rural areas. And it's not as talked about, but it's certainly extremely challenging, and especially in some of the rural communities where there's not, infrastructure and public transit, it can be very difficult for people that are, currently homeless to really get around. And so that's been very powerful for me to see, how far reaching homelessness is. And, it's really exciting to be able to work with, great people like Chris and Dana that share the vision and really want to take action towards, building a better society and building a community of people that want to take action in their communities.
Couldn't agree with you more, Matt. I have a question for you on that last point, which is, as you've described, a lot of these issues are very far reaching beyond what many of us may understand as kind of rule of thumb or general statistics. Even some of the numbers that you quoted at the beginning are things that aren't top of mind for me. And immediately my gut reaction is, well, that's a problem, right? Why is that not the case? So just by being up here, by talking, by spreading information and awareness, you're taking a great first step in the direction of expanding your impact. As you look at some of these longer term visionary ideas as a CEO, thinking about Cherry Willow as a brand to address homelessness in urban areas, rural areas, potentially scaling internationally, how do you see Cherry Willow extending its impact while being able to remain true to your core mission along that journey?
Yeah, I think for me, it comes back to really what I am seeking to do is just inspire people to act differently. Um, when there's many different ways that you can support, Cherry Willow as an organization, through supporting us by buying and wearing our merchandise and telling our story, by engaging with our content across social media. But really, when it comes to, how can we inspire people to, take action in their communities, and just really create a community of people that are inspired to have those small positive actions. To your point, Chris, I love philosophy, and the story of the Chinese farmer is about you don't really know the consequences of good fortune, nor do you know the consequences of misfortune. But it's really to encourage people to stay present in the moment. And oftentimes, when you're walking past someone that's on the street, you're not present in that moment. You're typically avoidant because of something that is a preconceived notion that you have. And rather than recognizing that that's an individual human being that maybe just stopping and saying hello to could make a huge difference in their day, instead you kind of avoid that and then just continue to walk past. And so my ultimate goal is just to get more people to open their minds and really just engage with the people in their community. And I think the more people that we have doing that, the more positive actions that are taken, the more people will realize that these are, just human beings like you and I. They're in these circumstances because of, a lot of times, it's a medical issue, which again goes back to some of the societal issues about, not deserving medical care unless you're able to create a profit, through someone else by working a job. And, there are a lot of other reasons why people end up on the street, but, medical issues and an inability to work is among the primary sources. And I think that that's something that's relatable to everyone. Everyone has experienced some level of, injury, if not personally, then certainly people in their family. Everyone's had a medical bill that's been, something that they're stressed about having to pay. And so I think the more that you engage with the people that are experiencing homelessness, the more you'll find that they are, again, not dissimilar to you or I. They're just people trying to do their best to live their life. And that's really, how I try to keep everything, true to the mission.
Where do you think, so you mentioned a few points here, Matt. This is partially even for my own learnings, but what are some of the steps, or where are some of the places that people can start in order to dive into some of these areas in terms of engagement with their local communities?
Yeah, so I mean, I typically suggest, reaching out to professionals that are actively working in the community, especially when you're approaching, people that are living in tents. That's their home, so you have to put yourself in their shoes and think of how would you feel if someone just came up to your door. And so, really, I always suggest to engage with people that already have established relationships, and then just try to find out where you can fill in. Most shelters, or there's a lot of outreach organizations. There's plenty of different ways that you can lend support, and especially if you have like any skills. Like for me, I like to bake. I like to bake cookies, and so I will bake cookies and attend an outreach event, and just to show up and be there for people, and try to introduce myself, and I'll try to capture stories and do some of the other work that I'm doing with Cherry Willow. But you can reach out to some of these organizations and see where they could use help, and just if there's something that you're passionate about, or if there's a skill that you have, ask them how this could be useful. And I think that if more people try to get creative and about how they can get involved, but definitely a great first step is to approach people that are already having relationships with the people that are homeless in those communities, because that trust is really important. And then just continue to show up for them. And I think that is really what we need, is just someone to show up for us, someone that believes in us, and that can really go a long way.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, it really, from what I'm hearing from you, from what I'm hearing from Dana, it's really about creating a community that cares about homelessness and providing the tools to be able to act on it, right? Whether those tools are systems, solutions, or simple education and entry points, which I think is really impactful. And I love how Cherry Willow is using apparel as becoming an entry point for just belonging as in this community. Even if people may not know exactly where to start, it is intent to start somewhere, even to the extent that you get involved in your local community charities or programs where Cherry Willow can, be brought into some of those maybe more local engagements, right, at scale, with the brand support, even to get your support in terms of these local operations all over the US, and to create a almost a common stamp of, we're all in this together, for this reason. And that's really what it feels like you're driving forward with your mission. Apparel gives you this amazing opportunity to collaborate. I mean, what you see in the consumer market is consumer brands, at least apparel brands, fashion brands, collaborating more than ever, where things used to be so siloed and exclusive. I can see so many opportunities for Cherry Willow collaborating with ... And what you can use in terms of those collaborations to reach new audiences, and how you might, within those collaboration, perpetuate your messaging, your education, things that are not totally capitalistically promoting, right? They are promoting your brand, but because your brand is founded in such a powerful mission, the end result is education around these very important topics. Even if you do go down that level of collaboration and mixing of messaging and marketing material.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're talking about education, like, the first step is really awareness, right? So you have to be aware before you can take action. And That's something that maybe I haven't done a great job of making the audience aware of, is that if you would like to be entered into the raffle, would love if you could, comment on the live stream and tag Cherry Willow Apparel. And also would really appreciate following us, on LinkedIn, sharing our stories and sharing our company so that we can, begin to reach, more people with our messaging. So if you believe in, people over profit and a purpose-driven company and supporting someone like us, those are the small actions that you can take right now to, really help us broaden our message and broaden our scope. And that's something that, again, it's a really exciting opportunity. We've made a lot of progress since I really started working on this idea last year. And it's, to Chris's point about the collaborations, there's so many brands out there that, have an opportunity to help address some of the misconceptions around homelessness and help inspire more positive action and building of community. And I think when you look at, you the country as a whole, there's been a lot of divisive rhetoric that has gone on. And so I think, coming together and emphasizing unity and emphasizing building community is more important now than ever. And, a great way to do that is just by, supporting Cherry Willow and trying to help us further our mission.
I think that's great, Matt. I will, in nearing closing here, I don't want to miss the point. First of all, I want to thank the folks who I invited today. If you're here, for showing up, for supporting Matt and Dana and Cherry Willow as a whole, get those comments into their live stream section. Even if you end up donating it to your local homeless shelter, it is your involvement, your engagement. When people see engagement, other people follow, right? It's human nature. So creating one positive action has that snowball effect that we talked about in the parable of the Chinese farmer. So please comment, please engage, please follow Cherry Willow, go to their website, see how you can support their mission to end homelessness through advocacy, through education. Start with purchasing one of their amazing products. I just bought a sweatshirt before the show that was long overdue. And I just want to say I believe deeply in your mission, the both of you. I believe that businesses like you are what get me out of bed in the morning. And trust me, that's difficult. Using purpose and profit to work together to create meaningful change is so important. Something that inspires me, something I'm so thrilled about being involved in with the Cherry Willow team. So thank you so much for bringing me on, for having the chance to ask questions, to contribute to your show today. I'm honored. Cherry Willow is a beacon of hope and real proof that businesses can create real change inside of this concept of aligning profit with purpose. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Dana. And thank you to everyone tuning in to watch. I know LinkedIn Live, when there's a Monday night, NFL playoff game, it's a big problem going up against that type of market. But, it's just really exciting to be able to talk about the mission and to connect with people that are out just trying to make a positive change in their community and build each other up. And again, really excited about where we're at right now with Cherry Willow and what's to come for 2025. So please continue to follow our social channels. We'll be having more of these live streams in the future and updating you on some of the progress that we've made and some of the impact that we've had on the people experiencing homelessness in our communities. And, thank you again, Chris and Dana, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having.
Thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Dana. So great to see you.